This year, $300 million will be spent buying foam rollers, a product that's been around for 50 years. Many physios, fitness coaches, and influencers claim it can increase range of motion, improve blood flow, reduce muscle soreness, and promote faster recovery. It's a staple in the annual top 20 fitness trends, but can this miracle product deliver on its promise? Or is it another scam waiting to steal your hard-earned money? Today, Tom will be debating against foam rollers and why you should save your time and money, where Jenni will defend their merits and argue why it's worth including this tool in your gym bag. So you two, what the heck is a foam roller?
That's what it is.
Well, I don't know. I assume we're using foam roller as a general term for all self-myofascial release tools, which is the fancy way of saying self-massage tools.
Yeah. All the foam rollers, all the lacrosse balls, all the spiky balls, all the vibrating balls, all of that stuff.
The sticks, the peanuts.
It's I'm going to keep saying bad words because JP's going to have to bleep them.
You already know what a disaster the audio setup for this is. Never mind adding more work.
Say a bad word, Jenni. Say a bad word. Go. There it is. Oh, Jenni, how could
you? Okay, so, right, we've established how Tom feels about foam rolling and what we're including as foam rolling for this topic. What is it supposed to do? Tom, you're not allowed to speak first. Jenni.
It's supposed to, as you said, stimulate blood flow, stimulate sort of neurological responses to physical pressure in certain areas. It could potentially, affect your fascia and your tissues underneath, and that's all together meant to make it easier to recover from injuries and easier to improve your range of motion after using a foam roller.
What is fascia?
Fascia is almost like a
weird webby stuff
around your muscle. Yeah, it's like a covering around your muscle. It's very, very, very hard and fibrous and tough. And in terms of this particular claim, we were looking this morning actually.
Remember, you're supposed to argue for 4.
It takes thousands of kilograms of pressure it can do to change fascia. So the amount of pressure you can exert on a foam roller is not going to change your fascia. But there's a potential that it's changing the muscle underneath or affecting it in some way.
So the people that sell them say, well, I think you'll find that what it does is it makes more pain where pain is present and tricks you into thinking that the pain's gone and the problem's been solved. Whereas actually all it's doing is masking the issue. Jenni Fur.
That's true. Yeah, that's one of the reasons. It's like a placebo effect, kind of. That's why one of the reasons why foam rolling can work is that it's just, you smash a bit that's already in pain, give it more pain, and then when you stop, it's like, oh, thank goodness. And it's sort of like this parasympathetic nervous response of like, well, that's better than it was, wasn't it?
And if something is getting pain because it doesn't have stability and the muscles are tightening up because the stability's not there to try and help you, surely is it not a great idea to loosen those muscles that are trying to help without working on the stability? Boom. Mic drop. I win the debate.
So is that not part... I'm going to step in here. So because it's a product and products tend to advertise strongly in one area, even though they can be beneficial over many, I think sometimes it gets sucked into it can only do this one thing, but actually that might just be the easiest thing to sell it on, when actually the benefits of it in other areas are still worthwhile. Jenni, could you talk a little bit maybe about
that? Because they're like, as you say, it's a stimulation of a certain muscle or area of the body, and that will have an effect. Like, it's the same way you get a massage by someone. You definitely feel different after it. It's not, you're not numb to these things just because maybe they don't do these massive claims of being able to break up adhesions. But massage of all types does something to your body. And I think that even It's one of those weird things about biology, as everything about biology,
Super weird.
is that it's super weird and it's very difficult to test it. And the studies that have been done on foam rolling usually are between like 5 and 20 people at the most. They're very, very small. And they'll claim things like improved range of motion.
By
and
10%.
Well, you look at the data and it's like
Temporarily.
1.2 degrees of range of motion improvement. And you're like, well, yeah. But who notices that? Or, yeah, like someone who's just a bit sore from a workout, foam roll, great, immediate range of motion. But yeah, someone who's got an injury and is chronically suffering with pain might not see the same results.
Yeah.
It's so messy.
So, okay, well, bearing on that in mind, who maybe can it be helpful for? Because it's not necessarily helpful for everyone all the time. Tom would say maybe it's never useful any of the time ever.
Never, ever,
Right.
never.
It's a very
So
strong stance.
I'm going full against. Remember, we're having a bit of fun with this as well. I'm not just writing something off forever. But so what you're saying, Jennifer, which I definitely heard you say, and the words definitely came out of your mouth, was that you're going to try and just do something that someone has trained in for years, like a massage or a physio, something like a massage masseuse
Therapist.
person, massage therapist or physio. They've trained for years to learn how to
Yes.
relax muscles and do all this stuff. You're just going to grab something and start rubbing yourself and be able to do just as good a job. That doesn't make sense.
No, it's one of the big arguments that I would say against foam rolling. Sorry, I meant to be for, but is that this is you can feel what's going on in your body better than someone else can, definitely. So if you think there's a pain here, that you can feel that and sort of juggle and jiggle yourself around on that roller until you actually get where that pain is, where the knot or adhesion is or whatever. But a professional might look at your back and be like, well, yes, you're getting pain in your left shoulder, but that's because your right shoulder is tight. And so there's that, you don't get that sort of wider global view. And yeah, how do you know when to stop? How do you know how hard to push? And how do you know which muscles to target? It's a very complicated thing to just suddenly go, you know what, this hurts, so I'm just going to start and go until it stops hurting. Or I'll just do 5 reps or whatever.
Yeah, and I guess, again, if we're using that specifically as a tool for massage, you maybe go to a massage for 30 minutes to an hour. You're probably not going to spend 30 minutes to an hour on a foam roller because it shouldn't.
Painful.
Like,
They recommend no more than 1 to 3 minutes a
Yeah.
day, whoever they are.
so in some ways, what's the harm then in spending 1 to 3 minutes just on an area if it feels like it's helpful for that?
Because you're wasting your life.
No,
Those 3 minutes you could have spent doing something that had meaning, and you sat rubbing yourself.
So we never actually got around to answering JP's original question, which was who could it actually be useful for,
Yeah.
and who
Losers.
And yeah, like if it's only 1 to 3 minutes per body part, why not just do it? Especially if you don't have major issues. One group of people that do benefit from foam rolling is hypermobile people, because their joints are what's loose and they tend to get very tight muscles.
Mm-hmm.
You try and stretch the muscles and what ends up happening is that the joints stretch instead.
Right, okay.
So foam rolling the muscles before trying to move and stretch can actually help, because you're sort of warming up the muscles, if you will, and
Right,
stimulating those.
Without straining the joint.
Without putting pressure on the joint. So that's one example of where foam rolling can be useful. Similarly, if you do move well, you are following up with movements and stretches and strengthening exercises, there is really no harm in rolling beforehand or after a workout, because you already know you're adding strength and mobility to those ranges. Because if all you do is foam roll, that's not your range of motion, that's the roller's range of motion. It's temporary, and you may find you need to roll every single session to feel as good as you did when you finish your foam rolling. Whereas if it's just one of the tools in your toolbox, it could be useful for anyone, really.
I think, Jennifer, that many people would agree that in their toolboxes there are many tools that they never need to use. They're useless tools, and that's what foam rolling is. I have nothing more to say on that.
ask, Tom? What is your vendetta against them very strongly? Why are you so against foam rollers?
Sure, we'll drop the joke debate.
Yes.
Actually, yeah, I think we'll drop the joke debate. So yeah, so I like to lean fully into the against to bring this conversation up, essentially, because there's a lot of people that are accidentally doing things that they don't necessarily need to do too much, and they have much bigger fish to fry. Like they have priorities that they really need, or not. They need to prioritize other things. Now, again, what Jenni said about hypermobile, in some cases, like if you are very like deconditioned, you haven't trained for years, or say there's some exercises you just cannot do yet, you do not have the strength, then yeah, you could use it as a bridging point. So I actually am a former foam rolling junkie. I used to
This
be
explains so much.
addicted to it. I used to teach it. I used to be so good at it that I was able to replicate, like with balls and rollers and everything, like what a thumb should feel like on a massage, what an elbow should feel like on a massage, what the palm should feel like on a massage, the way you would use the thing that you're using to replicate the actual massage techniques, where to place like the shoulder blade if you're trying to get underneath those little bumpy muscles and all that other stuff. I used to be so good at it that I could get rid of any pain. And what I started to notice with a lot of people and myself was that it was like, oh, hang on. There is basic movements that we can't do right. And we're spending our time rolling and then going and training the way we want to train anyway, and not actually addressing those things.
So it's allowing you to compensate for
Exactly.
something.
And what I started to notice was that people that had like they were too flexible, they didn't have stability, they were taking away that defense mechanism, and then they were, feeling okay and getting away with their training sessions. And like, no, that's what's helping me. It helps me get through the session. But then the next day they're wrecked, and then they start to get more and more time on the roller. And you start to see these people having these like 40-minute warm-ups that have to incorporate the foam roll and all the stretching and stuff first, whenever if they were just to take the time to make the joints move better, that is actually what's going to change the muscle tone. So one of the things that I was really addicted to was using the lacrosse ball on my QL muscles in my back. And it used to audibly sound as if there was gravel in my back. Like you actually could hear crunching. I was actually crunch against the wall. And I was like, oh, and I felt like I needed this. And I was always going to get massage and stuff too. That never changed until I fixed my hips. Then the tone of my muscles actually changed because everything felt more stable around it. The supporting muscles actually allowed the muscles to relax. So that's why it just became so apparent to me of like, you can accidentally do a bunch of stuff that you think is really, really helping at the time, but sometimes it might not be. So it's okay to add as a part of your overall training, but you don't want it to become an accidental crutch.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so Tom formerly used it a lot, and now never. Like you've gone completely. You never use it at all.
I never use it at all, and there'd be some people that they would use it quite a bit. I would say to them, "Hey, look, let's just try. Like, just trust me. Let's go cold turkey. No rolling at all for the next few weeks." And I will tell you now, you will feel worse initially because you actually start to crave it. I find. So I didn't do it for a long period of time, and then there was one day I was waiting on a lift or something, and I was in the gym, and I was like, had nothing to do. And I just seen one of the lacrosse balls sitting, and I was like, you know what I used to really love? Just around the traps. Just off around the traps. So I got up against the wall, and I was rubbing away, and I was like, oh, this is so good. I love this. Not telling anyone, of course, because I was like so against it. But I was like, this is amazing. See, for the next like 3-4 days afterwards, my traps were in agony. I was like, I really feel like I want to roll again. It wasn't bruising. It was like, I love the sensation so much. I was like starting to crave it again. And that's the thing, because it does feel nice at the time, and I cannot deny that at all. It does feel nice at the time. You start to crave it, and because your body goes, that thing helped me, you'll actually find that muscles can start to tighten up, and it's as if it's needing that. So until you start to learn how to do that, so that's one of the things that can be used for as a teaching tool to teach you how to relax better, to how to use your breathing better, to how to like kind of lean into a pain and then go, ah. But you want to transfer that to your stretching techniques, which is the main thing.
So Jenni, have you found? Do you use the foam roller?
Not really, no.
Okay.
No, I wouldn't really use foam rolling.
Have you in the past, or is it just something you've always kind of?
Yeah, so like I think there's a difference when you just start using one because it's in the gym, because you've seen it on social media, or because a friend says, versus when a physiotherapist or some other medical professional tells you to do it. So I had a patella tracking issue for ages,
As
back in
in,
the day.
your kneecap didn't follow your knee properly.
Yes, exactly, because I cycled a lot, and it was whatever way apparently my bike must have been set up wrong according to people who
Classic bikes,
knew.
they never do what they're supposed to.
Yeah.
And it's like
Different
millimeters
topic.
different.
Yeah, exactly. Bikes are the worst. So anyway, my knee was a lot of pain because my kneecap was not basically going straight forwards and backwards. And the physiotherapist I was seeing at the time was working on my knee, giving me some exercises to do, and also recommended foam rolling my quad to help loosen up and sort of stimulate the quad muscles to allow me to then do the stretches and exercises. And I found that very helpful. But it was part of a protocol that I knew was going to finish, and it was paired with other movements.
Sure.
So that would have been like probably the most useful time that I used foam rolling, but I wouldn't have just used it on a general, let's warm up for whatever.
The issue is when you take it into your own hands. So like if someone says my physio told me to, I'm like, great, yep. I am not going to go, your physio doesn't know what to talk about. I'm going to go, absolutely, do as you're told. You've went to see this person in person, do as you're told. So yeah, absolutely, it's a part of that if it's recommended. Now it's always going to be better if your physio does the massage first and then does the exercises with you at the same time. Yeah. The biggest problem is when people take it into their own hands. So one of those really famous books, Becoming a Supple Leopard or something like that.
Yes.
Like it's just full of these amazing techniques, you know, to use Kelly Starrett and stuff. And it was my problem. The place that I went wrong was like I started to look into all this stuff and how to do it and research more and like how to do it and all this here stuff. And I just took it on myself of like, oh, I can fix anything here. Yeah. Well, accidentally not knowing a bunch of stuff. Like I didn't know how poor my right hip mobility was, and I was trying to relax my TFL and all this here stuff. And like until your hip externally and internally rotates properly, your TFL's never going to feel good, you know? And I was just sticking a ball into that area that was sore. So that's kind of the problem. You don't understand referred pain or pain that's happening because of like a weakness somewhere. It's so important to learn about those things first, I find.
And I feel so bad for Kelly Starrett in many ways because
people misinterpreted his stuff.
He had so much influence and reach, and all he was trying to do was give people the tools so that they could help themselves in much the same way that we try to do. But his message was misinterpreted, and
because people we latch on to the easier things to do that feel nice right now.
Yeah.
Nobody ever wants to go, oh, I'm going to spend a good 30 minutes here really working on this range of motion and creating tension and doing all the boring stuff and making sure that the strength's there. Nobody wants to do that. You want to stick a ball in it for 5 seconds and then go, oh, it's better, isn't it? And then go and do snatches.
Like his whole thing was, let's use this tool to allow us to start. So it was very much like, say somebody's in pain and they've got a restriction and they're like, I'm not able to do the thing I need to do to fix this. So how can we help them get that part warmed up? So I use a foam roller on my calves and lower back. So lower back when I'm doing deadlifts and squats, and calves when I'm going to go for running. And it allows me to get blood flow to that area and get it warmed up so that I can then do some exercises that might be too restrictive or painful to do initially, but once the body is warm, you're like, actually, this is great. This is now getting those muscles to contract. So we got the passive aid to start with, then we can get the active aid, and now we're good to go. When you look back at all the work he did, I feel like that last step was the bit that got missed.
Yeah, definitely. That reminds me of Rehab U. What's my second name? Do you remember?
No.
Oh, my
Lynn
Dovan. Oh my gosh. I just know her as my. Anyway, from Rehab U, she has, coincidentally, her name creates the initials Mobilize, Activate, Integrate.
Oh, cool.
Which is a really nice way of framing it, I think. And her Mobilize phase can include foam rolling, but you have to then follow it with activate and integrate, which means we create the space through rolling, stretching, or both. Activate, so then we use our bodyweight or bands to get those muscles working. Then we integrate that range of motion into the movement that we're then trying to improve or do. And it does require all 3 steps in order to actually make a change, rather than just demobilize and straight to, not even integration, just straight to whatever you were doing beforehand.
Straight to marathon, let's go!
Yeah. which is very similar to our lengthen and strengthen. Like if you're just doing the lengthen without the strengthen,
Yeah.
not going to stick.
Yeah. My
vice
kind of
versa.
point is that you want to get better at stretching techniques that you can take what you would get from the release of a foam roller, that you can start to get that through moving a joint, and that you're actually able to go and relax into something and move it, even if it does feel slightly painful, to get it to relax and then go into the strengthening and stuff. So yeah, it can be a tool to help you learn what it's like to relax, or like if you're holding tension and then letting it go, it can be worth, good that way. But again, personally, I would lean more into teaching someone how to do an isometric tension hold and then release the tension themselves without needing an external piece of equipment.
Yeah.
So it can be a part of learning,
Mhm.
but you can also teach it without needing it too.
Yeah, because similar to the podcast we did on goals, everyone's mind works differently. And while some people can just jump straight in and do exactly what they need to, other people need to think around the thing or dip their toe in the water, get them started. So everyone works slightly differently. So yeah, for some people, being able to get that straight away, like let's work some tension, let's learn how to relax those muscles, that works great. Other people, they're never going to come back to the gym if you try it. So then for those people, maybe another tool. And like many tools, if you look at it, I was like the woodworking example. If you look in a woodworker's bag, they've got chisels, they've got hammers, they've got screwdrivers. But if all you have is a hammer, then everything becomes a nail. So you just hit it. If you only have a foam roller, all you can do is bash somebody around the head with a foam roller. It's not going to do much good. So you want to have a range of things that you can use. So if somebody comes in and they have a specific issue, you can tackle it with what's appropriate to them at their level. And it might be that they only use it for a month or 6 months, and then they move on to something else. Or they don't use it for 6 years, and then all of a sudden it becomes useful for a period of time, and then they move off again.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah, I was so attached to it, like, because I went and seen mobility expert James Jowsey, and he was
Is that
one
the
of the...
Australian guy?
No, he's from, like, I think he's from Manchester, maybe. He's
Oh,
from
really?
England. I'm not
Right,
actually
okay.
sure. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, I went to see him, and he was one of the first kind of coaches that I started to ask him about foam rolling, and he just went, "It's poison," and I was like, "Ooh, steady on," I think it's great. I think it's amazing, and still wasn't until it was a good year after I met him that I really started to kind of go, I actually am finding that I don't need this at all, and
Yeah.
through learning techniques. Because it used to be a big part of my morning. Whenever my back injury was really bad, I used to start with the rolling and stuff to try and relax the muscles first before I'd start moving. But I was shorter on time one day because I was always taking the 6 a.m. classes.
Mhm.
And so I had to make sure I got up at like 5 to be able to do the stuff, to be able to
Hour
cope
long,
with
yeah.
doing the 6 a.m. class. So I woke up late one morning and I was like, I don't have time to do the rolling stuff. I'll just do the stretching stuff. And I was like, I feel no different to not doing that. So then I just moved straight into just the moving. And I just found that I'd got better at the stretches and stuff. So it just made such an immediate difference for me. And it was more time spent working on my weaknesses, which was the big thing I'm at. So if you've got the time to do it, by all means. But if you're very busy and you don't have the time for it, and it's like, well, what's the biggest bang for your buck? It's improving how you move and improving the muscles and stability. That's going to be the biggest help for anyone, I think.
Well, yeah, because if you look at when you're training, whether it's to get fit or strong or both, or whatever your goal is, everyone has a certain amount of time they can allocate to these tasks. And the more time you have, the wider and broader and more thoroughly you can kind of tackle everything. But when you're time restricted, you really have to hone in on like the 1 or 2 things that are going to drive the needle the furthest. So you might only get 80% of the results, but you're only spending 20% of the time. If you can spend that last 80% of the time to get the last 20%, like athletes and stuff, there probably is a use case for a lot more of these tools.
Oh yeah, like that's one way that our perception is warped slightly, is that probably every athlete you ever followed ever uses foam rolling or some self-manufactured.
If you're racking up 6 hours a day of training,
and they've also probably got a physio or a team, or they're doing everything else as well, the movements, the stretching, the professional advice, as well as this. So it's like, take it with a pinch of salt that they're using it. They're probably also sponsored as well.
Yeah, sponsored by Foam Roller.
Big foam roller.
Big Foam Roller, they're out to get you. But yeah, I think a big So yeah, if you are going to do it, I prefer that you would do like a full body session or like focus on an area, like both legs or something like that. Focus on an area if you are going to do it. A big red flag is if you have an owie and you're constantly rubbing the same thing. Like say your right shoulder really hurts, and if you just always massage the pec and really work on it, like this is a really lovely one, by the way. See if like I knew all the trigger points and everything. See if you sink into an area and move the joint around it, it just feels so lovely. It's really, really nice to do. I'm turning into for it now. I'm just remembering how good it is and how nice it feels. But yeah, if you have one specific area that's always sore and you find that you cannot get through your day without sticking a object into it, then that's a red flag. That's right. You've missed something movement wise and you need to work on that. Otherwise, 6 months or a year's time, that's going to become an injury, a proper bad injury. So that's kind of something that I kind of look out for. So if you feel you can't get through the day or the week without it, it's like, what have you missed here?
Yeah.
Nice.
So do you have advice of the basic movements that people should check? That if they are finding they're craving foam rolling, what should they check instead?
They're basic joint functions, Jenny.
So hip rotation, maybe 90-90 rotations, shoulder rotation, general shoulder cars, shoulder circles.
Yeah, you want to go for the full 6 of your shoulders and your hips especially. So your flexion, your extension, your internal rotation, your external rotation, your abduction and your adduction for the shoulders and the hips. So that's the 6 things. So you've got, for the hips, the 90-90 and the couch stretch and all that jazz. I think I've said about this in the past podcast. Like, see if you just Google what are the functions of the shoulder, what are the functions of the hip, it brings up the directions of movement. And then if you've got hip extension, say good hip extension stretch or exercise, you'll get the couch stretch. So that's kind of like a life hack to figure out what you kind of need, or you can just buy the program SMM.
Yeah, I was gonna say
shameless
sounds
pitch.
Complicated.
Big SMMs out to get you. That's the trickiest thing. It's like we're trying to say here, like, oh, it's the people that sell the things, just want to get you to buy the things, but we sell things too. You can't win.
Of course we do.
Yeah. There's also the terms of the spine as well. So you want to think about how the spine moves. So you want to make sure you're doing lateral flexion, extension, forward flexion, extension, and your rotation as well. So moving your joints like joints is always the biggest key thing to think about. Another example I always really like is like, when's the last time you fully turned your head left, right, up, down, side to side? Like for a lot of people, when you ask that, you're like, oh, I don't know. And it's like, well, if you're always constantly rubbing your chops or you always have a tight neck and stuff like that, well, when's the last time you moved your neck like a neck?
Yeah.
So, it is quite simple in a way, but not until you've went through like, hang on, how do you actually move a neck? Because like all of this stuff is so natural to us now. But well, you don't know what you don't know.
So easily forgotten. Like I was thinking the other day, like whenever, so our group was great because we're all very active and obviously very into the mobility world just because of our jobs. But every now and again, I'm in a circle of people who I'm just looking like, when did you last lift your arms above your head? And it's like this thing that we would do on a daily basis. But actually in normal life, if you weren't interested in any of this, how often do you lift your hands overhead? Yeah. How often? Yeah.
I'm actually a member of the Mexican Wave Society.
Of course you are. Sounds like something you would do.
It does sound like something I would do.
But it's like, like the body, we are quite far attached from the way that the body naturally moves and all the functions that it does. I think I said attached, I meant detached.
A tricky thing as well, I think for a lot of people that maybe aren't interested in like harder gym training and stuff like that, they kind of go, well, I'm not interested in that gym stuff, but it's like, really, like you should just move your joints a little bit. You don't need to be winning medals or really challenging anything. It's just move your joints like joints. It doesn't really need to even be heavy in any capacity, like even just bodyweight stuff at the start is plenty.
It's like, it gets dismissed, but it's like, you don't know how good you could feel. Because it's not the only if you're interested in training, it's if you're interested in just having a nice life. Yeah.
You want people to get out of a chair without going, ah!
Pick up your kids or, even getting in and out of cars and things without having to make noise.
Yeah.
Nice.
Any closing thoughts?
Well, for you, I've got a closer here.
Jeffy's got an answer. I think I've had enough rants, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So hopefully we've helped you here today know how, when, where, or what to do with a foam roller. We also have a blog on our website, tommorrison.uk. You can check that out if you want to read rather than listen.
It's called Should You Foam Roll?
Oh, there we go. Nice. I might maybe put a link to that somewhere. I'm feeling generous.
I should remember.
And then other thing, if your eyes glazed over or you got heart palpitations when Tom was talking about flexion, extension, internal rotation, external rotation, and all the different functions of the body parts, your hips, shoulders, neck, back, spine, feet, ankles, and feel overwhelmed. Or if you're in the group that just got curious when he said that, try SMM.
A simplistic mobility method.
Yeah. It's your essentials.
All, yeah.
What a great purchase. But closing thing as well, if anyone's watching and you see like a wee purple thing on my finger, don't hold a piñata for the kids at your birthday parties. Literally the first case.
And another thing.
Danger!
And stop.